football is back in action this week as they go on the road to start Big 12 play. I'm Taylor Peters alongside Robert Giovanetti. Thanks so much for being with us today on Double T Insider. I'll tell you what, if there was any opponent that you maybe would like to have an extra week to prepare for, it'd be number 6 Oklahoma.
Don't you hate the bye week, though? I mean,
Yes.
This seems like a long weekend without the Red Raiders playing football. But you're right, after the injury to Alan Bowman, everything else, it probably was nice to have a week off. I know that's that old media cliche. Is this the right time for a bye week? But this time it truly was.
And Coach Wells had addressed that, too. He said, there's really nothing that our staff and these players were able to do to control the bye week. But okay, yeah, it did kind of come at a good time because now they can come back and rehash and look at, Khalil Tate, a dual threat quarterback, and then translate that into facing off against maybe one of the best in the country in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts may be the best, as you mentioned, in the country. Very similar to what you saw against Arizona, but better, and just a guy that takes care of the ball. He's a threat on the ground, so it's going to present lots of problems for our defense.
And I do feel like when you look at Jordan Brooks, basically his sole job in that game was to kind of to spy on Khalil Tate. And so now you turn around, and I would expect that he's going to kind of have a similar job moving into this week against Oklahoma. What do you think?
I would think so. He's so athletic, and I think we really saw how athletic Jordan was in the way he managed that game against Arizona. So I think we'll see him in that same spot against Oklahoma.
And you had mentioned earlier Alan Bowman, the team will be without their starting quarterback this week. But Coach Wells said, hey, let's expect to see Jet Duffy and Jackson Tyner. That should be interesting.
And for both those guys, that's a great extra week of work for both of them. I was out there the other day, saw them both getting reps. And so I know that's something that we talked about this last week on the show. Two completely different guys and their styles, everything else. Obviously, Jet has more legs that can get you out and get out of trouble. Jackson's more of a stay-in-the-pocket guy. So two different options for Oklahoma to have to prepare for.
And, of course, we've already seen a little bit from Jet Duffy. We saw him play last year whenever we lost our 1 and 2 guy at quarterback, but we haven't seen anything from Jackson Tyner. I mean, just from what you saw of him during the spring and throughout fall camp, what's kind of your feel on him?
First time I saw him, I said, who's this guy? Because he's got a cannon for an arm, so he can throw the ball. He can throw the deep ball. He's obviously got a nice touch on it. He's got good presence in the pocket. Just completely different from Jet, who, Jet, he relies on his legs to get out of trouble.
What would you like to see from this group offensively against Oklahoma? I mean, what would you consider a win moving on from that game?
I think just for them, just to be able to control the ground game a little bit, try to be able to use some clock, keep the defense off the field as much as possible. I think we saw that in the Arizona game where the defense really gassed at the end.
And I think it's going to be essential for guys like TJ Vasher and maybe even McLean Mannix and RJ Turner and some of those receivers being able to step up. Dante Thompson will be critical in that game, I think.
And have to just make the routine plays. I mean, we've seen some of these guys really make spectacular plays, but just make the routine play after, again, a team like Oklahoma, you've just got to take care of the ball.
Again, Red Raider football on the road to start off Big 12 play, an 11 o'clock kick there in Norman. But Red Raider soccer this week will also open up conference play. They had an enormous victory over number 22 South Florida. That was a really important game for this group, and they executed. Tom
Stone, the head coach of Tech Soccer, talked about how important this game was for them, RPI-wise, just that last non-conference game before you get into conference, and really a tough game, and they'll look back on at the end of the year if this was a big win for them.
Charlotte Teeter and Kirsten Davis would tack on those 2 goals in that 2-1 victory over South Florida, but maybe the most exciting storyline of the game was freshman keeper Madison White. I mean, she was spectacular.
Comes in a very difficult situation, right, after the injury, and comes in and just get calls in action and does fantastic.
You mentioned the injury to Marissa Zucchetto. She would go for a loose ball. She's obviously got a lot of experience for this group. She's holding down the whole crew defensively. She goes for a loose ball and accidentally gets cleated in the head. She ended up needing to have 27 stitches across her face and her head. But Coach Tom Stone went to Madison and said, hey, listen, not only is Zoo not going to come back for this game, she may be out for a while, and we really need you. And she came out and was spectacular.
Tom preaches that all the time. It may not be your time now, but be ready for when it is your time. And he likes to say sometimes they aren't ready for that spotlight, but she was clearly ready on Saturday.
And she had 7 saves, and some of those were really unbelievable. She had one incredible diving save, and she kind of fell on her chest and her face and jumped right back up like it was nothing. I mean, for her to go in and play the way that she did against a really talented, really physical, really smart South Florida team is really amazing for her, and her performance would get her Big 12 Freshman of the Week.
And a tough environment as well. That was a tough place to play. The crowd was into it. Again, we can't say enough good things about Kirsten Davis as well. I mean, how good is she?
She has been absolutely sensational, and she, of course, is second in the country in 2 offensive categories. I mean, she is just a cornerstone for this offensive group, and she's a leader too, and you love to see that. And back in Lubbock this weekend, the Red Raider Classic, the Texas Tech Red Raiders and Coach Tony Gerstone would win that tournament this weekend. Emily Hill, senior Emily Hill, has just been absolutely fantastic. She would win tournament MVP. It's the second time she gets that honor this year.
Right, she's wrapping those up. She's going to have a whole new bookshelf at home. Leads the country in almost every meaningful offensive statistic, and she has really been a go-to player for Coach Greystone this year.
Emerson Solano and Katie Northcutt, 2 defensive specialists, would also be named to the all-tournament team. But overall, just a really important weekend for this group, and Coach Greystone talked about the importance of having a good weekend for just this fan base, because after all, they'd been on the road for the first month of the season.
On the road, they also have suffered a pretty devastating injury for their team. To be able to bounce back, get the wins that they have had, now going into conference play with a lot of confidence. And
we talked a lot about Emily Hill. We'll have her here on the show in just a little bit. But first, coming up next on Double T Insider, we sit down with defensive coordinator Keith Patterson.
They'd like any takeaways at this point defensively. That's been something they're short on. Tate downfield. There it is. Douglas Coleman with the first pick for Texas Tech.
That interception right there was not only the first of the game, but it was the first of the season for this Texas Tech defense, and it was a major spark in that game.
You had to have it at that point in the game, and so a fantastic play and really gave the Red Raiders a little bit of life.
We've talked a lot, Coach Patterson has talked about it specifically, the blueprint of this defense and the things that they use to calculate what they would consider defensive success, and it's tackles for loss, turnovers, and how many times they're able to force 3 and out.
These things don't happen by accident with Coach Patterson. If you've been to any of his practices, he's got that going over and over again. They teach them how to strip the ball. They teach them what to do with the ball in case of a turnover, something he really, really focuses on every practice.
And I had an opportunity earlier this week to sit down with Coach Patterson and break down those 2 major interceptions for Douglas Coleman. I'm Taylor Peters here with defensive coordinator Keith Patterson. Coach, first turnover of the year would come on the road against Arizona, and it was your senior defensive back, Doug Coleman, that would get the first one of the season, the first one of that game. He actually had 2 against Arizona, and we're going to talk about both of those here today. Yep. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go to the first one. Right. About 4.5 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Arizona's got the ball there, the 35-yard line.
Yeah,
Take it away.
We're in a too-high safety concept right here. As you can see, trying to load up and stop the run out of our odd front. Okay. Once Tommy bites on the play action just a little bit, now he's going to close the middle of the field. Doug is in great shape right here over the top of number 1. Tommy's going to give him some inside presence right here. It might have been the difference. Once the quarterback saw Tommy close in the middle of the field, he elevated the ball a little bit, forced the overthrow. And again, Doug is in great shape right here and just makes an exceptional play, securing possession of the football right there.
A really good catch from Doug, and you said a great play, comes down with the ball and is able to hold on to it.
No doubt. I mean, Doug has great ball skills. I mean, could obviously probably even play wide receiver. He's even asked me a time or 2.
Well, we'll keep him at defensive back.
I think we need to.
The second one would come here with just about 40 seconds left to go in the first half. What did you see on this play?
Yeah, here we're in a different coverage concept. Obviously, we're still in an odd front. We're in one of our trips adjustments right here. We got Doug again. He's doing a nice job. Once he recognizes pass here, he is tracing number 3 strong right here. Again, as we were just talking earlier, I'd like for Rico to elevate that route a little bit right to Doug. So he ends up getting in kind of no man's land right here because the receiver breaks the route off on him. But Doug does an excellent job right here rallying, and now he will low hip the wide receiver and undercut the route and make another exceptional play and great catch. Big point in big turning point in the game.
Really exceptional plays there from Doug Coleman. Hopefully a lot more of that still to come this season.
No doubt. We expect great things from him the rest of the season.
Coach, thanks for breaking down some film with us today.
You're welcome.
Gio, you and I were both on the sideline of that Arizona game, and you can't help but notice that toward the end of the fourth quarter, Arizona kind of got a second wind, and it looked like we were just gassed, and this defensive group had been on the field for such a long time.
You got to give a lot of that credit to Tate. Coach Wells talked about that afterwards, the big play he made on 3rd and long where he used his legs to get out of trouble. but then they were just able to just methodically march down the field. And I think that a lot of that just had to do with depth and lateness of the game.
Coming up next on Double T Insider, we celebrate 150 years of college football. Welcome back into Double T Insider. 150 years of college football. We, of course, haven't been here for all of it, but it has come a long way.
It has come a long way. Just look at Texas Tech and the nature of the stadium and where that is and everything that goes along with that. There's so much tradition and pageantry that goes with college football that sets it apart from every other sport.
You say that word pageantry of college football, and it doesn't even exist just on the field. I mean, we talk about the game coming a long way, but just the experience of college football too.
The bands and everything else that goes with it. You don't get that at an NFL game. You only get that at a college game where you have the great, like we have the best band in the country, the Going Band, and you don't see that in any other sport. Again, that's what sets college football apart.
So many teams across the country are wearing that patch on their jersey that says 150 years to indicate this being the anniversary of 150 years of college football.
Coach, it's the 150th anniversary of college football. How proud does it make you part of the game of college football?
I think it's a privilege to coach. You got a chance to invest in kids' lives, mentor them, see their lives change, what they can do, how they become fathers and husbands and get jobs. Those are tremendous intrinsic values. The challenge of Saturdays, the passion of Saturdays, the pageantry of college football. Growing up around it, for me, as a young kid, going to games as a little kid, getting a chance to play college football, and then it's been a way for me, a way of life. It's given me jobs and a scholarship and a degree. It's done so much for Matt Wells. It's the ability for me to now give back to that game. To me, if you respect the game and you give so much to the game will give twice as much back. And that's things that we talk to our players about, is respecting the game, and I use it more in terms of the way you prepare, the discipline, the way you practice, the way you carry yourself off the field and in the community, and this game will give so much more back to you.
Coming up next, we're joined on set by senior captain Emily Hill. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Double T Insider. I'm Taylor Peters here with senior Emily Hill. Senior, I can't believe it.
I know, it's crazy.
Your time has gone by so fast.
Yes.
Is it crazy? You kind of just wake up one morning and you think, oh my gosh, this is my last year.
Yeah, and you don't wish it away, but you know it's tough while you're going through it, but it goes by like poof, it's gone.
And it has been so much fun to watch you grow and get better every year and to go out and just perform, the way that you've been. But it seems like you've kind of turned a corner this year. Do you feel that?
Yes, a little bit. I feel like I'm definitely more confident, and that plays a big part in just going out there and, just play.
Yeah. And just playing in freedom. And I've heard Coach Greystone kind of talk about that in reference to you. It's hard to be a transfer. And you came in and you were able to sort of just pick up immediately, and you didn't lose any ground after that. What would you say is maybe the biggest challenge of being a transfer?
I'd say you get used to your team, and then you pick up and move your life. And for me, I was nervous about meeting the girls and finding your new group and everything, but the girls here were wonderful and super welcoming and fit in like a puzzle piece. It was easy. Yeah.
And they just become your family, right?
Yes, exactly.
How would you just kind of describe, the way that this team sort of gets along and the way that that influences and affects the way that you perform on the court?
Oh, we hang out constantly off the court. That could be good or bad, but we're all super close, and it's just that, I don't know, just that
Relationship, right?
Yeah, you're close off the court, so you play well on the court together.
And kind of read your teammates, right?
Exactly.
And last year we saw some freshmen really step in and to big roles, and you saw that in Carrington Jones and Brooke Canis and Katie Northcutt. And now you see it again in this group of freshmen, and some of those players have just been really special. I mean, what is it about this program do you think allows some of those young players to come in and be successful right off the bat?
I think the fact that we're, like, as a team, so welcoming, and it's such a close family relationship. No one feels pressured and intimidated when they come in, so they're able to just play free.
And with Caitlin Dugan and Caddy, what is some of the best piece of advice that you give them after all your experience and all that you've been through? I mean, they haven't really skipped a beat this year,
No,
but is
not
there
at all.
anything that you got to kind of encourage them on?
I'd say just be confident and don't wish it away. Enjoy every second.
And you guys, of course, had an opportunity to be able to open up at home last week, and then with the Red Raider Classic this weekend, now you turn around and open up Big 12 play against West Virginia on Wednesday. What do you like about just being able to get that first Big 12 game under your belt in front of your own home crowd?
Oh, I think we'll have a great crowd, which is always fun. Our fans are awesome, and usually we have a great turnout. But also just being able to sleep in your own bed and practice in your own gym, and just, be at home is always really nice. So.
To be second in the country in 2 offensive categories, Emily, that's a big deal. I mean, it really is, and we're proud of you as a Texas Tech family, but what's special about that and just all the hard work that goes in the years leading up to this point?
I think just all the hard work that has gone in, you said it exactly. It's been a lot of time and energy and tears and excitement, but just seeing it all pay off is really fun.
Well, it has certainly paid off, and this is just the beginning for you. Good luck to you guys this weekend.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back on Double T Insider. Heartbreaking news would come this weekend for the Texas Tech family with the passing of legendary Red Raider football player E.J. Holub. Gio, he passed away in Midland at 81 years old.
Maybe one of the most iconic Texas Tech athletic figures of all time. So many people have great memories of E.J. not only playing here but also in the NFL, and then you double down on that bad news and we hear about Andre Emmett on Monday, and it's been a sad week for Texas Tech fans. 2 Ring of Honor members, 1 in basketball, 1 in football.
Andre Emmett was just inducted into the Ring of Honor last year, but he still is the all-time leading scorer for Red Raider basketball. Our thoughts and prayers are with both of their families.
The only word that I think I could bring out that would make sense is that he was a tremendous offensive player.
His scoring was just legendary. He could always get us a bucket.
I played a lot of basketball in a lot of different countries, and I've never played with a guy or played against a guy that was a better offensive player than Andre Emmett. He was unbelievable. You get him 16, 17 feet from the basket, he could score on anybody in the country at any time. He was an unbelievable competitor. Like he just wanted to win, wanted to prove to you that he was better than you. You couldn't guard him, you couldn't stop him, and he was going to win. And that didn't matter what game we were playing in practice, what game, if we were playing dominoes at the house, doing whatever. I mean, he just wanted to win.
I think he's one of the best players that ever played at Texas Tech, and that's a strong statement when you think of all the great players